Hey, what's up everybody? This is Osterberg501 and today I want to show you guys another one of the DLC 3 legendary weapons. And this is the Mother 2, which is a Tediore SMG. Now I got this as a random drop, so I'm assuming it can just drop from any DLC 3 enemy and will most likely have a dedicated drop from one of the DLC bosses. This is a Tediore weapon, so like every other Tediore weapon, once you reload it, you throw out a weapon or you throw out something that does something special, does damage, something. And this one is pretty unique, like the most recent Tediore weapon I went over for DLC 3, and has a decently high skill ceiling. I've gotten two of these so far. One has no element, one is radiation, so I'm assuming it can at minimum have a handful of the radiation or a handful of the different elements. That'll be really nice. Any weapon that has a lot of different elements instantly makes it a bit better because you can farm the different elements to have it in every situation. The base damage of these weapons, the one without elements, is obviously going to be much higher, but the base damage is actually really good on these weapons. For the just normal fire mode of this weapon, it is just a beam that does damage like normal beam weapons and does pretty good damage. This one's doing 19k, 43k headshots, which is without any talents, any anointed increases, any damage increases at all. So it's pretty good damage. Where this weapon is special is what happens when you reload it. So when you reload the weapon, it throws out a ball that has a beam going below it that does damage anytime it passes through something. When we're at the target dummy, it doesn't have anything to track, so it just kind of moves back and forth. But when there's enemies around that it can actually track, it will follow enemies around and constantly deal damage to them while following them. So any big enemy, it's going to hit pretty much 100% of the time. Then it actually blows up and does a pretty big chunk of damage. And what's really nice, the beam damage over time hits really quickly, pretty much the same attack speed as your weapon. It does more damage. So that's 25k for the beam and 19k for my just normal fire. And the explosion radius of these is pretty big. After it's following something around, it's going to blow up and deal a big chunk of damage and pretty much always guaranteed hit the target it's been following. The beam actually has some more interactions and some more ways to use it to make it better. So first off, if you're just looking at the ground, it pretty much goes off the height of how you're looking at it. So I just threw that at the ground, but that's pretty much as low as you can get it. You really wouldn't want that because this beam can actually crit if you do it high enough. So if you actually look straight at the ceiling and throw it, it seems to be slower, but I think that's going to still follow targets around at the same speed. But as you can see, the beam gets much bigger. If you do this to any target that's following around, it's going to crit. It's actually really hard to get it to crit on the target dummy. It will actually crit if it is high enough over the target to crit. So this high, looking at the ceiling, and there's the explosion, 115k, which is really good damage. It can crit like a normal weapon when it's following a target around, which will just make it do ridiculous damage. Gives it a pretty decent skill ceiling to actually use. So there you go. Bunch of crits. It actually hits quicker than your normal fire. That actually pretty quickly. And take into consideration, that's going to be following the target around, tracking it to constantly deal damage. And as you can see, these things can get pretty quick with the momentum they can build up. That's going to be a lot of damage. With it being an SMG, the ammo, and with it only having 30 rounds in a magazine, the ammo of it is not going to be near as big of an issue as something, say, like a shotgun. And also, you can just get a bunch of these out at the same time, like as many as you can get out. So that was 5 out right there. And take into consideration, that's going to be following a target around. This can definitely do some pretty ridiculous damage, especially if you're just spamming these things out, which will start running you dry in ammo. But if you just have some percentage ammo regen items or talents, something like that, with how much ammo SMGs have, you should be fine overall. That's pretty much all I want to go over with this weapon. In my opinion, it's definitely a really fun weapon. The only thing we'll have to test out more is the amount of damage when you get it in certain builds. With the base damage of these things, I think that it could definitely be a contender for an actual usable Mayhem 10 weapon. So overall, pretty cool weapon in my opinion. So subscribe if you want to see more Borderlands 3 content. Leave a like if you liked the video. If you comment down below what you guys think about this weapon. And thanks for watching.
Madhouse! It's gonna be a fucking madhouse out there!